What if the most truthful thing that you could say today is nothing at all? What if your need to respond immediately, to explain, to defend, to clarify, or to correct isn't courage at all, but fear wearing the costume of conviction? Because Scripture gives us a moment where truth himself is questioned and chooses silence. Hi, I'm Greg, and welcome to The Interior Life. Last episode, we laid down this rule. We create, speak, and act as offering, not performance. Today, we move a little deeper, not into what we say, but when we say it. And whether silence might sometimes be the more faithful response. It may feel awkward at first, but silence has a way of inviting others in, because it tells them that you're willing to think and that you care enough to listen. For example, in the Passion narrative, we encounter one of the most unsettling moments in all of the Gospels. Jesus Christ stands before Pontius Pilate. He is accused, misunderstood, his mission questioned, his authority challenged. And Pilate asked him directly, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus answers briefly, and then he stops. Scripture tells us he gave him no answer, not because he had nothing to say, but because silence here was truer than speech. See, we live in a world that rewards immediacy. Say something now, clarify the misunderstanding, post that thought, defending ourselves always, and do it quickly before the silence is filled in by someone else. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, we start to form an interior habit. If I don't speak immediately, I might lose control. But compulsive expression is not born of clarity. It's the unintentional byproduct of anxiety. It's the kind of fear that says truth needs to be our urgency to survive. And here's why I believe silence forms truth. See, Jesus' silence before Pilate reveals something radical. Truth doesn't require reaction. Authority does not require explanation. And obedience doesn't always require words. See, silence is not weakness. It's restraint, rooted in trust. When we speak too quickly, we often speak from injury or from pride or fear. But when we wait, truth is given time to settle, to purify, and to mature. Silence becomes the crucible then, where motives are revealed before words are released. There's a reason the greatest composers understood silence probably better than most speakers understand their own words. Frédéric Chopin was notorious for his pauses, not as gaps, but as meaning. His rests were not empty. They were charged. They taught the listener how to wait for the next phrase. In that silence was beauty that words could not explain. How does the saying go? Silence is golden. And Beethoven, he was obsessed with dynamics far more than any other composer that I am aware of. And he understood something even more demanding. It has been said that Beethoven's loudest fortissimo is defined by his softest pianissimo. His loudest loud is defined by how soft he can get in an orchestra. Without restraint, power becomes noise. Without silence, intensity loses its authority. See, music doesn't rush to be heard. It's linear, and it allows that space to form the sound, much like the sound wave is formed in space. And truth, well, it works almost the same way. I once saw this same discipline up close. A few years ago, I was backstage at a talk with Jordan Peterson, and there were about 100 of us there, paid Q&A, nothing staged. And one young man got up and asked him what advice he would give to someone who hoped to become a sociologist, following a similar path of his. And before answering, Peterson paused. Now, if you know Jordan Peterson, you know what his pauses can be like. Nothing theatrical, nothing confident. It became almost uncomfortable. I mean, you could feel the whole room there waiting with him. And then he spoke carefully about allowing silence in, about giving yourself permission to think before responding, especially when the stakes are high. See, what struck me wasn't just the advice that he gave, but it was the restraint in which he gave it. He let the pause do its work, so that what followed wasn't reaction, but reflection. We see this discipline in good speech, good teaching, and in good debate. The strongest communicators don't rush to correct. They relate what they've heard. Then they name what's valid, and they acknowledge what they agree with. And only then do they offer any kind of rebuttal or challenge. See, they understand a simple rule. Criticism is received in proportion to the spirit in which it's offered. And that isn't weakness. That's authority formed by listening. The interior reordering here then is simple, but it is costly. All we have to do is wait. Not forever, not passively, but prayerfully. We just wait. And then we ask ourselves, is this mine to say? Is this mine to say now? Or am I speaking to protect myself, to fill in time, rather than to honor God and to honor what is true? See, silence trains us to let truth rise instead of forcing it out. If episode 1 taught us to stop performing for others, episode 2 teaches us to stop reacting to others. Performance speaks to be seen, and reaction speaks to be safe. But silence speaks to be faithful. Truth is not rushed into speech. It's formed within the pause. Where in your life are you speaking too soon? And where might silence, not speech, but silence, where might the pause be the more faithful response? And what truth might God be forming in you right now if you would just let it wait before you give it a voice?